Men, let's be totally honest with each other right from the jump. Women confuse you, and they confuse the absolute hell out of most men who will never have the courage to admit it. You know exactly what I am talking about because you have lived it. One minute, everything is perfectly fine. She's sweet, the vibe is completely calm, and you genuinely think you finally have everything under control. Then, out of nowhere, the entire atmosphere shifts. A single word, a slight change in your tone, or a completely minor disagreement turns into a total emotional minefield, leaving you standing there completely blindsided, scratching your head and desperately wondering what the hell just went wrong. You try to use logic to fix it, you try to reason your way out of it, but nothing works. And the harder you try, the deeper into the quicksand you sink. The harsh reality is that most men are navigating their relationships completely blind, relying on guesswork and hope rather than actual insight. They possess absolutely no roadmap for female psychology, so they treat every mood swing or emotional shift as a random, chaotic attack. But it isn't random at all. Today, we are completely pulling back the curtain on the top 7 female emotional patterns that every single man must master if he ever wants to effectively lead a relationship instead of just surviving it. Let's make one thing crystal clear before we go any further. This is not about judging women, putting them down, or complaining about how they operate. This is about decoding their internal psychology on a level that 99% of men will never understand, giving you the exact blueprint you need to stop reacting with childish frustration and start responding with calm, unshakable masculine authority. When you refuse to learn this, you are choosing a life of endless friction. You ignore these patterns, and your reward is a constant cycle of exhausting arguments, silent treatments, and a lingering sense of disconnection that slowly eats away at the respect she has for you. You find yourself trapped in a defensive loop, constantly walking on eggshells, praying that you don't say the wrong thing next. But when you actively choose to master these core emotional frequencies, everything changes instantly. The fog completely clears, the confusion vanishes, and you gain total, absolute clarity over your romantic life. You stop being a victim of the emotional weather and you start becoming the anchor. If you are genuinely ready to stop guessing, level up your emotional intelligence right now, and take complete control of your destiny as a man, go ahead and smash that like button immediately, because what you are about to hear will permanently change how you view relationships. Let's dive straight into the first core pattern: emotional sensitivity. Right out of the gate, you need to completely reprogram how you look at this trait, because the vast majority of men get it completely wrong. When a man sees a woman get highly emotional, cry, or get deeply upset over something that seems incredibly minor, his first instinct is to view it as a weakness, a flaw, or some kind of irrational defect. But you need to understand that emotional sensitivity is not a glitch in her character. It is a woman's core operating system. It is the fundamental lens through which she experiences, processes, and navigates the entire world around her. While men are biologically and socially wired to prioritize logic, structure, and facts, a woman's internal world is guided by deep intuition, empathy, and intense emotional depth. She doesn't just process your words, she processes your energy, your body language, and the underlying tone of the entire environment. What might look like a mountain made out of a molehill to your analytical brain is a very real, very heavy emotional reality to her. This is exactly where the vast majority of relationship shipwrecks happen, because men make the fatal mistake of demanding absolute cold logic during a highly charged disagreement. When she is upset and venting her frustrations, your masculine brain immediately kicks into hyperdrive, trying to troubleshoot the issue. You start treating her feelings like a broken car engine, offering step-by-step practical solutions, telling her exactly what she should do, or trying to logically prove to her why she shouldn't be feeling the way she does. You think you're being helpful, but to her, you are completely invalidating her reality. You fail to realize that a woman's world runs entirely on emotional logic, a system where her current feelings completely define her immediate reality. If she feels unsafe, she is unsafe. If she feels ignored, she is ignored. It doesn't matter if the raw facts say otherwise. When she is in that heightened state, she isn't looking for a mechanic to fix a problem. She is subconsciously testing whether you possess the masculine capacity to handle the sheer weight of her emotional state without bending, breaking, or folding under the pressure. If you make the mistake of dismissing her feelings, telling her she is overreacting, or worse, matching her chaotic energy with your own explosive irritation, you fail her test completely. The second you lose your temper, raise your voice, or shut down into a cold, stubborn silence, you communicate to her that you are weak. You show her that her emotions are too powerful for you to handle, and that you lack the emotional maturity to remain steady when the storm hits. When a woman realizes she can throw you off your pivot just by being upset, she instantly loses respect for you as a leader. And the moment a woman loses respect, her attraction dies, and she begins to emotionally pull away to protect herself. True, unshakable masculine strength means refusing to join her in the chaos. When you can sit there, look her in the eyes, listen to her intense feelings without taking them as a personal attack, and acknowledge her emotions with calm, grounded stability, something miraculous happens. You instantly transform from a source of friction into a safe harbor. By standing firm like a massive oak tree in a hurricane, you give her the freedom to release her emotional storm safely. You gain massive, permanent influence over her heart without ever needing to raise your voice, dominate her, or force her to submit, because she will naturally yield to a man who can master his own spirit when she is losing hers. Let's move right into the second major pattern you have to master: the absolute need for attention. To put this in the simplest, most direct terms possible, so you never forget it. For a woman, attention is oxygen. It is a biological and psychological necessity for her survival in a relationship. Most men completely misinterpret this craving, assuming that when a woman wants attention, she's just being vain, needy, high maintenance, or looking for cheap, shallow praise to feed her ego. But that is a massive misconception that will ruin your relationship. Attention is the primary metric, the ultimate yardstick by which a woman measures your actual commitment, your desire, and your love for her. Men measure relationships by the big milestones, providing financial stability, buying a house, or staying faithful. But women measure relationships by the micro moments of daily connection. To her, if you are not paying attention to her, you do not care about her. And no amount of money or grand romantic gestures can ever replace that missing daily fuel. You need to understand the profound difference between physical proximity and emotional presence, because this is where almost every modern man completely drops the ball. You can be sitting right next to a woman on the exact same couch in the exact same room for 5 hours straight and still make her feel entirely, completely alone if your mind is somewhere else. If your eyes are glued to your phone, your brain is stressing about work, or you are mentally checked out while she is trying to speak to you, she notices it immediately. Women are incredibly receptive to energy and focus. She senses your mental distraction not just as a bad habit, but as actual emotional abandonment. When she feels that abandonment creeping in, her internal alarm system goes off. And that is exactly why she will suddenly, out of nowhere, pick a fierce, explosive fight over something completely minor and ridiculous. When she starts yelling about the dishes left in the sink, slamming a cupboard door, or getting deeply upset because you took too long to reply to a simple text message, you need to wake up and see what is actually happening. She isn't actually mad about the dirty dishes, and she doesn't actually care about the text message itself. Those are just the convenient excuses her mind grabs onto. In reality, she is throwing a wrench into the gears because she is desperately testing your presence. She feels you slipping away into your own world, and she is creating chaos to force your attention back onto her, even if it is negative attention. A weak, uneducated man gets instantly defensive in these moments. He starts arguing about the dishes, pointing out how illogical she is being, and escalating the fight. But a wise, grounded man sees right through the smoke and mirrors. He doesn't take the bait. He realizes that her anger is actually an unspoken cry for connection, and he immediately shuts down the digital distractions, looks her dead in the eyes, and gives her his raw, focused, high quality masculine presence. Giving this high quality attention doesn't mean you have to follow her around like a puppy dog or shower her with constant, suffocating compliments 24 hours a day. It is about the power of being fully locked in when you are together. It means practicing intense, intentional eye contact when she is talking to you, instead of scanning the room or checking your notifications. It means sending a quick, thoughtful check in text during a hectic workday, just to let her know she crossed your mind, which signals to her that she is safe and secure in your life, even when you are physically apart. It means listening to her speak, not to reply or solve her problems, but to genuinely understand her vibe. When you provide this deep, unshakable level of emotional presence, the transformation in her behavior will shock you. A woman who feels genuinely seen, heard, and prioritized by her man will naturally drop all of her emotional defenses. She will relax her shoulders, soften her tone, open up her heart completely, and stay fiercely, unconditionally loyal to the man who gives her that ultimate sense of security. Let's break down the third critical pattern that ruins countless relationships because men simply don't see it coming: the deep, silent fear of rejection. When you look at a woman who is acting distant, cold, stubborn, or overly critical, your first instinct is probably to think she is just being difficult or trying to play mind games with you. But you need to look past the surface armor and understand that behind almost every piece of guarded, frustrating female behavior lies a massive, terrifying fear of being rejected. You have to realize that because women are wired to naturally invest so much more heavily in emotional connections than men, opening up their hearts to you represents an absolutely massive risk to their entire sense of self-worth and identity. When a man enters a relationship, he risks his time, his energy, and his resources. When a woman genuinely opens up to a man, she is placing her entire emotional well-being right into his hands. She's exposing her raw vulnerabilities, and that means she is giving you the exact weapons needed to completely destroy her inner peace. The moment she cares about you, she becomes incredibly fragile to how you treat her, meaning that when you suddenly withdraw your affection, go completely silent during a disagreement, or casually dismiss her efforts to please you, she doesn't just feel slightly ignored in that moment. Her brain processes that shift as a total devastating rejection of who she is as a human being. This deeply rooted fear of being pushed away or replaced triggers two incredibly common emotional defense mechanisms. And as a man, you must learn to recognize them instantly, rather than getting angry at them. The first reaction is hyperactivation. She will suddenly start to over communicate, bombard you with messages, track your movements, and constantly demand reassurance about where she stands with you. She will ask questions like, "Are we okay?" or "Do you still want to be with me?" over and over again. Lazy, uneducated men look at this behavior, slap a label on it, and call it toxic neediness or crazy insecurity. But they are completely blind to the reality. That behavior is not random craziness. It is a desperate, frantic plea for emotional safety from a woman who feels like she is slipping off the edge of your cliff. The second common reaction to this fear is the exact opposite, known as deactivation. She will completely pull back, turn cold as ice, shut down her warmth, and stop trying altogether. She does this not because she stopped loving you, but because her survival instinct is screaming at her to reject you first before you have the chance to reject her. She builds a massive wall around her heart to protect herself from the agonizing pain of being abandoned by the man she opened up to. Trying to cure this deep fear by arguing with her, telling her to stop overthinking, or throwing empty words at her will never work because talk is incredibly cheap and her anxiety will see right through it. You cannot talk a woman out of an emotional fear. You have to actively lead her out of it through the absolute power of masculine consistency. Words alone mean absolutely nothing to a woman who has been hurt in the past or feels an emotional shift in the present. You cure her fear of rejection by being completely steady, keeping every single promise you make, no matter how small it is, and showing up exactly when and how you said you would. You must build an unshakable, bulletproof track record of reliable masculine action over time that leaves absolutely no room for doubt. When you become a man whose actions align perfectly with his words, you create a solid foundation where she doesn't have to guess your intentions. When she sees that you remain dependable, that you don't run away or punish her with silence when things get tough, and that you consistently protect her place in your life, her walls will naturally crumble. She will willingly trade her fear for fierce loyalty and total openness because she finally knows her emotions are completely safe in the hands of a real man. Let's tackle the fourth major pattern, which is perhaps the most fundamental building block of any successful relationship: her deep, non negotiable desire for security. If you ask the average guy what a woman means when she says she wants security, he will immediately start thinking about his bank account, his job title, or his ability to buy her expensive dinners and designer bags. But you need to completely erase that shallow mindset from your brain right now. While financial comfort is obviously a great tool, a woman's true desire for security goes infinitely deeper than just financial support. What she actually craves at a biological, DNA level is deep psychological, emotional, and relational stability. She is hardwired by nature to seek out a man who acts as a solid, immovable anchor in a chaotic world. She is constantly observing you, analyzing you, and checking to see if you possess clear life direction, unshakable self discipline, and total control over your own emotions. She needs to know that no matter how hard the storms of life hit, you have the backbone to stand tall, look the storm in the face, and guide both of you through to safety without losing your composure. The moment you fail to project this stability, everything in your relationship will start to deteriorate. If you appear lost in life, if you lack ambition, if you are unpredictable with your moods, or if you get easily rattled, stressed, and angry over minor life challenges, you trigger a massive emergency alarm inside her brain. When a woman senses that the man she is with is emotionally fragile, financially irresponsible, or completely directionless, her deepest survival instincts kick in at full force. Because she realizes you cannot protect or stabilize the environment, she feels forced to step up and do it herself. This internal panic is exactly what causes a woman to suddenly become highly anxious, incredibly controlling, hyper suspicious, and constantly critical of everything you do. She will start questioning your decisions, micromanaging your schedule, and breathing down your neck. Most men look at this behavior, take it as a personal attack, and start complaining that their woman is acting like a nagging mother. But you need to be direct enough with yourself to realize that her controlling behavior is just a direct reflection of your lack of leadership. She is only trying to take the steering wheel because you have shown her that you don't know how to drive. Providing true masculine security means making the conscious choice every single day to become her peace rather than becoming her biggest problem. When life throws a wrench in your plans, whether it's a crisis at work, a financial setback, or an unexpected emergency, she is going to watch your immediate reaction like a hawk. If you handle that intense pressure with calm, calculated stability, and if you continue to keep your word with absolute, uncompromising integrity, something beautiful happens within her psychology. She finally feels safe enough to completely drop her guard, step out of her hypervigilant survival mode, and soften into her natural feminine energy. She will literally stop trying to control you, stop questioning your moves, and stop micromanaging the relationship because her soul can finally rest in the fact that she trusts your leadership. She can confidently lean on you because she knows you won't bend or snap under the weight of the world. Always remember this truth: true security cannot be bought with a credit card or a fancy lifestyle. It is built piece by piece through steady, unfazed and unshakable masculine behavior that proves you are a man worth following. Let's unpack the fifth major pattern that absolutely drives men insane. And it is a topic we need to address with total honesty: a woman's tendency for emotional overthinking. If you are like most guys, you have probably found yourself completely exhausted by the endless circles a woman's mind can run in. To your masculine brain, it seems totally irrational, stressful, and completely unnecessary. But you have to stop looking at her mind through your own blueprint, because men and women process reality in fundamentally different ways. As a man, your mind is designed to think in straight lines, based entirely on hard facts, objective data, and logic. You see a problem, you look at the immediate cause, and you move directly to a conclusion. A woman's mind, however, does not work in a straight line. It processes reality in a massive, interconnected web based on nuance, energy, and subtext. Where you see a single, isolated event, her brain sees a complex puzzle connected to everything else in the relationship. A subtle, microscopic shift in the tone of your voice, a slightly delayed reply to a text message, or a random cold look on your face while you are thinking about something else will instantly send her mind racing down 100 different paths of intense analysis, trying to figure out what it all means.